Hello and welcome to the Elsie Black Oral History Project. My name is Eileen Hyland. This project is all about sharing and preserving the real life stories of people living in social housing in Ireland, with a focus on fluid housing. We want to highlight the everyday experiences, the memories and the voices of residents, the stories that often go unnoticed. It's about recognising the value of these communities and making sure their stories are heard and remembered. Today is the 7th of May, 2025, and we're talking to Paul Grimes, who lives at Millcourt in Bandon, County Cork.
Well, my name is Paul Grimes. I was born in Dublin, 1947. Kind of a weird one because my father was from Dundalk, my mother was from Belfast, and I was born in Dublin. And all my kids, I said, they're all from Cork, so we were all down the East Coast,
And were you an only child?
No, my two, get this right now, one brother and two sisters.
What about the house you grew up in? Was it a council house or was it your own home?
The first house I lived in for my first 3 or 4 years was on looking into the Liffey, opposite Guinness Brewery. And then after that we moved out to a place called Marino, and we had a corporation house with a very nice estate. So I spent all my time there before I got married.
So just describe the house for me that you grew up in.
We moved out to Marino, that's where I spent all my,
Yeah.
from the time I was about 3 or 4 to I was
Okay.
22 or something like that.
And what would that house have been like?
Oh, it was beautiful,
Yeah.
grand. Like typical corporation, but not terribly big looking back on it.
Yeah.
But like to us, it was the world. We were very lucky because out the back, there was a kind of a laneway and a wall, which was, in other words, the house was built on a site that would have been a farm. So there's a bit of remnants of the farm still there, the big house, where the doctor lived in, and they used to grow vegetables and all that, and there was apple trees and pear trees hanging over their wall, and we'd go in and rob them, of course. And then away down to in the long distance was what we used to call the blind asylum, St. Joseph's Home for the blind, and they were the way up, way on the other side. So we had all the fields around us, so we'd go into the fields, and back in the days when the cook would be there, and remember all that, and then see them getting mangled in the machines as they came in that time. So we're very lucky, and that was very near Drumcondra. We were kind of surrounded by Fairview, Croke Park, Clontarf, Whitehall, the airport road, and all that. So we were in the centre of everything.
Yeah.
Within walking distance, and the beach was only half an hour walk.
Okay, so I suppose the next question here is was it did you have water and electricity? But it obviously sounds it was quite a well developed. So you had everything there, yeah. And
what we considered everything compared to what we have now, nothing. But everything was there. Yeah.
And did you live there all your childhood?
Yeah, from the time I was about 3 or 4, I can't remember yet.
Okay. Was there a strong sense of community where you lived?
Probably. But the immediate neighbours, there was, but there wasn't. People came and went, and my mother was very much into keeping to herself. 1 or 2 women coming for the yap.
Yeah.
And my father just kept like a pub, so he was away working all the time. But I suppose you weren't aware that there wasn't a community that it would be now. But I suppose it was fine. Yeah.
Grand.
It was a fine place. It was a really nice. What do you call it? Like there was never any trouble around the place. Yeah.
And why and when did you move from there?
I moved from there to go to sea as a marine engineer in 1969. That was the year man went to the moon and I went to sea. And then eventually then from that, met a woman and got married.
Okay, grand.
So once I left that house, I built a house in Cork then.
Okay, and the next little section here then is about your own experience with fluid. So when did you move in here?
2009, which is 16 years ago almost, it's October. And I came in the flood.
Okay.
It was only moved in October and the whole town flooded in November. So even in the apartments here, I'm on the very top, but the people on the ground floor others hadn't even moved in some of the property into the skip. And all the carpets and all had to be dumped and everything. And my son was down that following weekend, and we walked around the town, and every shop had all their Christmas gear in, and they were all dumped into the skip. So, and even the Garda barracks was opposite me here, and their cars are floating around in the flood.
So that river actually rose.
That's the Bandon River. It rolled up over the bridge. You know, there's a new bridge there now, but just one of those mad nights, and then it was all gone away in the morning. You know, I was actually in Cork that day. I was supposed to go to Fort. I was doing a college course, and I decided like those young lads that we were going to go bring them to Fort. They wouldn't have proper gear and all that, so I just decided to talk to the tutors, because I would pick them up sometimes out of the car, and me with the elder Lemon, and I decided to talk to them about going that day, because I wanted to go to a course in Cork that same day. And we got there and we come back from the course in Cork with another fella, a 4-wheel drive Jeep. And we got down the hill here and I looked down, the whole town was flooded. All the guards were down the bridge. And it got worse that night then.
And how long was the place out of action then here? Do they come in straight away to start working on it?
We were very lucky, apparently, that there's a big fuse box down just on the boiler house. And if I had to come up about another foot, I think it was, the whole town would have been out for God knows when. But it went down, but we were very lucky. Like starting the building be destroyed, not destroyed, but the ground floor was fairly. And I can't remember, some people hadn't moved. There was maybe one or two bits of accommodation that wasn't taken up at the time. They moved upstairs,
Yeah.
But I remember looking out the window here, like, we had the mobile phone, and of course the battery was gone flat, and I was going to ring the kids and all that. And not that I could, but I remember looking over there at there's a dip in the road just beside the Garda barracks. There's kind of a T-junction, and a big tractor came, and the tractor couldn't get through. They had to reverse. A bigger tractor came later on, got through, but they were all given out the next day. The tractor was causing waves along the place, going into jail. But anyway, to see the cars and the Garda barracks floating around, and the Garda barracks had the Gardaí had to go up to a school up on top of the hill. And it was a mad night,
Can you tell me how you came to live here? So what was your story about moving into Clwyd? If you'd like to share that.
Yeah, of course I do. But it was. I was married for 30 years. I lived in Mallow, and then we got separated in 2003. And then I was sort of, the loose end. So I remember ending up in Blarney, living over the shop. I was doing college courses at that time, big into all that. And then I eventually met a friend of mine through work up in Galway, and she invited me to come up and live at her house, while I was at this loose end. Like we'd been in a relationship 30 years before I got married, So then we had a relationship. So I was up there for a couple of years, and then she had this beautiful son, he was 33rd, and she'd kind of nursed him all her life. And she was a nurse as well, but she told me when he was born, he could put him on a palm bar, and she begged the doctors to keep him going. He had a congenital heart problem. So he was there, and then he died when I was there, and then the stress was so I was more or less asked to leave. So we went down and we got a place in that lawn, a cottage. She helped me get it and all that. And then I was in that lawn, I was doing massage and all that kind of stuff at the time. And I working at that, and that kind of just wasn't making money, and I'd applied to do a course in Kinsale actually, but I applied for the course in Kinsale, and I got on the course, and I came down. It was funny was when I rang up about the course, they said to me, like, make sure you're coming on this. There's people from Germany and America and all want to be on this. But I knew people had done it before. Because I could name drop, I got in. Yeah, sure. And she rang me then about September. You're coming. Oh, jeez, I hadn't made any arrangement. So she gave me a right kick in the hole. So I came down with and ended up living in a hostel in Kinsale, straight in. And then it was the best thing I ever did because I loved it. Did 2 years there, and then eventually, I was living in shared accommodation with people. That anything I could get, and. Didn't have much money at the time, any money I had from the separation wasn't really spent. So anyway, what was I say? They came around, I had housing needs, I used to say, and they came around and interviewed me, and they said, when in Kinsale, they said, well, look, we'll interview you, but you're having the snowball's chance in hell of getting a place at the time, and by a stroke of luck, they decided to clean up all the waiting lists, you know, and then there was less people on it. So they said to me, like, next interview, where would you like to? And so anywhere in West Cork. And they turned out Bandon was this place in Bandon where I live now became available, and I got in, and I've been here since. Blessed.
Brilliant. So what were your first impressions of this place?
I thought heaven just arrived at my doorstep, because this place is facing south. There's a river right in front of the place, and the sun shines away on the left, goes all the way. So I'm actually looking directly south, you know, as a perfect aspect. There's a beautiful garden. I used to do the gardens when I came here first and everything. Couldn't be. It was like heaven came into my life, and it's been here since.
What does home mean to you here now? What is home at this stage of your life? What does
This
home mean?
is home. It's kind of weird in a weird way that it feels like I've been here forever, you know, because I've really integrated and I've done the whole place up. You know, I do all my own painting and decorating and all the stuff. I put everything in, you know, including my heart and soul into it, and I still do. And I've got this lovely electric chair that I'm sitting in now at the moment. Like, it's like pure heaven, and I love it. And it's nice people. There's some not so nice people, but you always get them one or two awkward people. But generally speaking, the place is quiet and no noise. I mean, you're isolated from the traffic with the river out the back, and then within a minute or two you can walk into town, and then everything from the social welfare to the doctor to the, you know, shops, butcher, everything's there. Super Value, Lidl, everything's here. So it's just like, couldn't be any better basically.
Brilliant, Paul. Thanks. That sounds great. So, what difference did it make to you to get a home with Clúid at that time? Can you remember your situation at that time?
It was because I was kind of house sharing or room sharing, whenever I get into, like everywhere I went, I upgraded the place. You know, if I got a room, I'd upgrade it and I'd paint it and decorate it, and hopefully, one of the last places I lived in Kinsale, I got started off in a little room at the bottom, did all that up, then got transferred upstairs, did all that up, and even bought some of my own furniture from Mallow. My wife was throwing out, and I did it, you know, put new flooring, including there was a carpenter there. I got between all this, you know, we did it all up, and then. Because if I had to stay there, I was happy enough to stay there. But then this place came up, and I moved here. Yeah.
Great. Okay.
My son and daughter helped me move in, you know, back in 2009. They were very young at the time. So. Yeah.
Great. There's
yeah,
not much.
We were first in.
Yeah.
In fact, I was one of the first. I say there was two other people said they were first in, and I said no, I was first in. But one guy there, and he said I was so glad to get the key. I slept on the floor.
Right.
There's another woman up in the other building, and she said she was first in, and I'm sure I was. But it doesn't really matter. We were all around the same day.
Yeah.
You know, we moved right in. You know.
Yeah.
So it was like getting for all of us, different circumstances, getting the key to this was just magic. Yeah. Thank you, Clúid.
What do you love most about your home or your neighbourhood here?
Most there's so much, because as I said just there, like there's everything here, you know, and God, I just couldn't even imagine.
Ticks all the boxes for you. Yeah.
I'll be here even though I won the lottery, and I'm gonna move out of here.
Wow. How do you think people outside view people who live in social housing? Do you think there's a stigma?
There is, of course, in the country, like, you know, but I remember going around in Kinsale when I was trying to get a place, and a guy said to me, we don't take people like you, and I would be like, wouldn't be what he meant, you know. Yeah. I said, "Jay, dirty bastard," you know. Yeah. I did. Yeah. But then he was renting the place out, you know. So I wouldn't like to wish bad luck on anybody. I didn't care if he lost his house. Let's put it that way. I don't know, but you know, there is an attitude of some people, like what they call those type of people. But we all have it in a way. It depends. When you look at everything's relative, isn't it? You know.
But there is those kind of people, and yet, you know, you only have to talk to the people who are here, and everybody has a story, and they all have a history, and you know.
But you see, like, you know, some of them, like, well, I suppose some people are just uppity in their own head, you know. You know, they got the illusions of grandeur. But anyway, sure, look, we won't worry about them.
And have you ever felt judged or treated differently because of where you live?
Not me personally, not, but I don't ever think that way. But, you know, I would maybe, I don't have any inferiority. You know, there could be, I'd talk to anybody from the top to the king, I wouldn't care. But, you know, everyone's the same, really, you know. Some people put barriers around themselves, and I don't have that, like, you know.
But do you think is it less in the country than in the city? Would you?
It's very difficult, you see. You don't know who you're dealing with, you know. Because all these things don't affect me, you know. We're all boys in our own little ways, but I just don't know. Like, it's. I mean, I say some of the people in town here, like, look over. I'd also say, what sort of people are in there, you know. But nobody ever says it, you know.
Yeah.
So
with this place here, what kind of a community existed when you moved in? There was nobody here when you moved in, but let's say in those early days.
Well, it's a whole brand new building. There's about, I think it's 36 apartments, mostly single people, few couples, and of course lots of people have died since. You know, we've had a good, fairly good turnover of people, like, and I'd say because it's a town with a history of everybody knows each other. Now, I was the exception, being a blow-in, and I didn't realise that for a long time, that everybody was not like me. So if you said something to somebody, you know, they would get back and all this. Now, I learned the hard way about that. So I was really an exception here, and probably I still am, you know. But they, you know, people in the town, in any town, they have the history and they all know each other, and, you know, all that kind of stuff. There's never changes, you know.
Would you say it's important for people to have a sense of belonging where they live? Like, I know you personally get involved in a lot of things. Like, would you like to see more of that in this place here, or how could you get that? How could you build on that? Because I think some people do feel very isolated, and it takes a lot to bring them out.
It's funny, one of the carers said to me the other day, you know, there's people here that got nobody, you know, nobody at all. So you're going to visit them. And it's something that never occurred to me, because I'm so independent-mindedly. I got my car, go here, there, everywhere, and up and dump, you know. And I don't think isolation. If I was on my own, I wouldn't be lonely or isolated. Now, some people obviously are. So I'm going to try and make more of an effort to, you know, even though they all know me, if you know what I mean. Especially when I used to do the garden outside, they'd all come out and do the garden when I was there. And if I wasn't there, it wouldn't happen. You know, years ago we grew vegetables, potatoes and cabbage and everything out the front. But that's when there was a railing around the place, and we were always worried about the flood coming. So eventually they built a lovely wall around the place. So the flood they dug out the river. There were 2 years spending millions out there digging out the river, but there's no flood problem anymore. That was the big issue here. You know, every time there was rain came, oh jeez, we could be flooded. You know. There was a float in the river telling you it's getting dangerous level, you know. So anybody on the ground floor was petrified, you know. But
Okay.
But you know, I have to say that there's a lovely community room here. Done up there. We had a fantastic manager here who died during the COVID, and he had all the place painted. And Rachel, she was the lady from Clue, and she spent the money getting the room done up and all. It's beautiful. You wouldn't get in any hotel so good, you know.
And what could they do to improve people's use of it? Like, I mean, do you need somebody to actually run events and do things?
You definitely need. I mean, if the manager, say, would have a coffee morning, a certain amount would turn up, the same certain amount, and the minority would turn up. But the same minority, the majority don't come. Now, some of them are Polish and French, not French, but Polish and Latvian, you know, would be one Russian man here. But they don't, the language thing, they don't do it, you know. You know.
Okay.
I don't know how you overcome that. Probably impossible, you know.
Yeah. The next question you kind of answered is what could be done to build a stronger community here?
The answer to that is I just don't know.
Yeah.
They didn't find that.
Yeah.
I mean, just getting back to that last question.
Yeah.
If somebody was coming in to try and attract the foreign people with the language, you know. I think a lot of the reason they don't come in is they only broken English.
Right.
And some of them don't, even to me, they say hello and that's about it.
Yeah.
Now, I had an incident there a few weeks ago there where the washing machine broke down, and there was one of the Polish guys, you know, he'd had me with the gardener, and he said, "What's your name?" I couldn't remember his proper name, and I said, "My name is Paolo, you know, Paolo."
Okay.
So the other day I was there, and he drove in, I was going to massage my back, actually, and he locked me in the car, you see. I said, "Excuse me, Paolo, could you help me, you know? My wife's clothes are all stuck in the washing machine. Would you get the door open?" Okay. I said, "When I come back, I'll have a go." Now, I don't know I don't know how much he stood to be, but I got it open and got the clothes out in the end, you know. But this is the kind of mad things happen, you know. You can't, you know. I had a Paolo. You know?
Sounds good. Okay, so do you wish people understood about life and social housing? Because you're saying that sometimes the perception is that they're all like, I don't know, layabouts or...
Yeah, there is that, you know. I mean, a lot of people in social housing, you know, have brought all this over the years, have brought it on themselves, you know. So, I mean, I suppose when I lived in Malin, I was looking for a place, and they would say, "You might, Jesus, you know, God help me, you know." So, look, most people are grand, you know, no matter where they are. There's rough and good and, you know, bad everywhere, you know. And they're not all poor, you know.
Absolutely. If you could send a message to decision makers or developers, what would it be? About building maybe more of these, or
build more
change
places like they did in Dublin there recently, include where people, what do they call them? Not the name's gone out of my head. Where they built a fabulous place, where everybody was envying the people going into it, and that was a Clued house, and it's a mixture of apartments and houses for people, like, you know.
so you think there's room for this kind of development?
Yeah, absolutely. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, this is an exceptionally beautiful place. Like I remember the guys down in Clued, the top guy came down, and he said, "Oh, this is my favourite place to come to, you know."
And what are your hopes for future generations living in this kind of housing?
Well, sure, you know, like myself, you know, we're here until the box comes. We only hope the boxes will come too quickly. Yeah. But otherwise, I'm here, and most people are here for that long haul. Like, yeah.
So you get that sense of security about being
Oh,
here,
yeah,
security of tenure, that this is your place now. This
Oh
is
yeah,
your...
that's a good thing. You don't have an issue with Clue that way, like, you know.
Yeah.
We come under the name Clon, which is for the older people, so it's slightly different, you know. But even I know included in other places, like, people are coming and going and getting thrown out and not paying their rent and social issues. But look, we're good here, yeah.
Yeah, great. The last question is, any funny stories about this place or your Clued experience? Is there anything you want to throw in before we finish?
The funny experiences are when I grew vegetables in the garden. I thought it was very funny, you know. You just don't know, you think you're doing a great job, and a guy said to me one day, "I don't want to be looking out the window, cabbage!" And I said, Jesus, like, you know, you always had an issue where he was worried about looking at cabbage, so you just don't know.
It's hilarious.
At least that one.
Great job.